What's going on, guys? Ahmed here, back with another video. And given it is, we are preparing for the drop of ASAP Rocky, I wanted to prepare myself and get into a couple of ASAP Rocky projects. I've never listened to one before this, and so I was pretty interested to see what ASAP Rocky had to offer from an album perspective. So I was pretty excited. Of course, I am aware that the perception of ASAP Rocky is someone who draws inspiration from many different places and pushes the sound forward and really creates something new with what he has to offer. So going into this album, I had high hopes, and man, did this guy deliver. For his debut album, this was genuinely incredible. So let's start off with the writing. This is kind of the hardest thing for me to explain. Just because the writing is so abstract and so sort of out there that there's a lot of different things to kind of talk about. I think part of the appeal and part of the sort of greatness of his writing is just his ability to come up with different I'm fly bars. There was so much fashion talk and so much rich flex talk, but he did it in such a creative way to where and he kept coming up with new stuff, and I was like, dang, this guy is really it for real. And so that was a really interesting narrative throughout the record, but he also definitely took time and took pockets to talk about the current state of music, or to talk about his fears, frustrations, and insecurities, or even the relationships he had with the people around him. And so overall, it was a really interesting listen. And I feel like he covered a lot of topics with this album, but in such a way to where it was still cohesive and engaging the whole time. And so, yeah, that was definitely sort of the general feeling I got from the writing. It was, like I said, it was extremely abstract, and the structure of the rhymes was really creative, and I really, really enjoyed that. But I also like how he didn't. I feel like so many artists, when they have a conceptual or an introspective idea, they don't give it a song. They give it a verse, and then they'll give the other verse something else, or they'll say something cool and then intermix it with some song, some music about girls or something like that. And I really like how for songs like One Train, he really gave that verse and that whole song the time to be introspective, and I really, really enjoyed that throughout the project whenever he would get more into his deep bag. But overall, I just felt like lyrically and from a creative standpoint, Rocky was firing on all cylinders with the writing. Again, finding different ways to flex, finding different ways to show off the lifestyle that he had attained, but also talking about where he had come from. So yeah, that was the writing. Flows and vocals. So this is what impressed me the most about this album. This has to be an amazing for me. Absolutely incredible, bruh. The vocals, the vocal effects. There was some stuff on there where he was doing it, and I didn't even realize it was just him until I looked at the song. It was absolutely insane. Even that first track, so much stuff on here, so many vocal inflections, so many vocal stylings, vocal reverbs, and vocal effects that were going on. And what I really liked is that, unlike maybe an album like Igor or 7220, it really sounded like he listened back to the vocals to make sure that they sounded good. Even though he's not necessarily full belting out singing Stevie Wonder style or doing a Young Thug or something like that, he still has things going on that sound appealing and that work for his current vocal ability. The fast flows were really, really enjoyable to listen to when he broke out into those, and there were a lot of flow switches per song that were really, really engaging and interesting. And I liked how it felt like there was always a new flow on a different album. That's one thing I'm really learning with these experimental albums, is that these guys, they really like to push the boundaries of what we know and what we perceive as possible in rap. And so that was really, really enjoyable to listen to. And I've thought about this intermittently as I'm reviewing more and more albums, and I feel like there's a lot of different ways to make an album diverse. It doesn't just have to be writing. It doesn't just have to be beats. There's a lot of different ways to make. You can have an album with all the same style beats, but be talking about 10 different things, and the album is still diverse. And I think with this, while some of the subject matter could get repetitive here and there, when he has those sort of portions of the record where he is just talking about the girls and the lifestyle and stuff like that, I think the vocals is what really make it so that you don't even really notice that it's getting repetitive. And so that was genuinely a highlight of the record for me, was just the amount of vocal inflections and things that he was able to hit to keep the album interesting and fun. One thing I did notice, which was very kind of interesting to see, like I love hearing people in the beginning of their career, was that he has a lot of like Lil Wayne cadences, which I thought was pretty interesting, especially like in the way that he would start a certain verse. Yeah, I can hear a lot of Lil Wayne in that particular portion of a verse or a record. And so that was also pretty interesting. Of course, this was 2013, and so we were kind of just getting done with the Wayne era, and we were seeing the impact of the Wayne era. And Young Thug, of course, was a part of that. But A$AP Rocky, was also a part of that sort of batch of artists that were heavily inspired by Lil Wayne. And so that was also very interesting to see and appreciate. Features, again, I gotta give it an amazing. The only reason I'm not gonna give it a perfect, honestly, is because I don't really feel like the Schoolboy Q verse was necessary, and it kind of got weird at times for me. But other than that, man, these verses went crazy. Kendrick on both songs. One Train is a classic, man. Well, One Train is an insane song. It felt like it dang near had every experimental artist. It had Action Bronson, Kendrick, like so many different artists, but it still fit thematically somehow, which was really, really good. And I really, really enjoyed that and thought that was super, super interesting. There were so many highlights on here from a feature perspective. Some of the people who managed the choruses were really, really great. Some people who had certain songs were really, really great. While I wasn't a fan of effing Problems, like I don't feel that fucking Problems fit into the album that well, I do feel like from a feature perspective, everybody did their thing. Even Kendrick, you know what I'm saying? I'm always kind of wary of Kendrick making like love songs and doing the traditional rap thing, but even he had a little thing that I really enjoyed from him. And so, yeah, definitely really, really strong feature game. Some of my favorites were Santa Gold on Hell, One Train with Kendrick and Action Bronson, absolutely fire. Drake on fucking Problems, he absolutely tore that up. And Gunplay on Gangster, I think it's Gangster Symphony, was insane. Gunplay is crazy with the lyrics, I have to say. I was really impressed by that. But overall, the features were absolutely amazing tier. Production and creativity, again, amazing. I know I kind of keep repeating the same rating, but this was a surprisingly consistent album when I look at my rating system. The beats were so different in their sound palette, but somehow still kind of cohesive in this very distracting lo-fi way that was really, really interesting. Again, besides fucking Problems, and also the Skrillex song, I felt like, I don't know, those kind of felt like like songs for a different album or something like that. But other than those two songs from a production standpoint, I felt like everything fit thematically as, again, this distracting lo-fi music that was kind of like low-key and subdued in its nature, but there was so much happening that there was still a lot of presence. And of course, from a creative standpoint, you got to respect the vocals, you got to respect the beat choices, you got to respect some of the pockets that he's landing in flow-wise. And so creatively, this was absolutely an extremely strong record. And I always, when I think about creativity, I think about, have I heard any artist do this before? And maybe I'll find that artist later, but right now, I don't know that artist who's doing stuff like this. And that was really, really incredible, especially with the amount of different things that he was attempting, from the vocal inflections, all the different vocal inflections, from him singing to kind of his group vocals to the reverb. There were so many different things that he was trying and landing that I feel like is very hard to replicate, and I was definitely very, very impressed by that. I really enjoyed that. Musical execution the overall rating is of course amazing, but musical execution was amazing, as you can kind of tell. Musical execution is kind of an overall rating, but I just kind of have it to make sure that a record still sounds good. But this was absolutely an amazing sounding record. Some infectious choruses on songs like Goldie, great verses and great diversity on songs like on songs such as Ghetto Symphony and One Train. And it really feels like you're getting something different with each song, and that was really enjoyable to listen to throughout. It was almost like it was a bit of a roller coaster, in that like you're still on the ride, right? You still know that it's going to be a ride, but you never know where it's going to go on that ride. And I thought that was really, really engaging. Fashion Killer, I really, really enjoyed as well. And it was, my bad, my computer died. So yeah, Fashion Killer was a really great song, and overall I feel like from a musical execution standpoint, the unpredictability but the attention to detail as well really made this a really enjoyable listen. And I think musical execution is the easiest one to judge. It's just when it hits my ears, how does it sound? And every single song, with the exception of maybe the Skrillex song, would just hit my ears and magic. So yeah, overall the musical execution was extraordinarily strong, and overall the album was extraordinarily strong. I don't know if I would call it a classic necessarily. I definitely consider it a New York classic, and it's definitely a really strong project in Rocky's discography. And I also feel like that is an album that can definitely be held up against other older school albums and be compared as a quality body of work. I absolutely believe that as well, and I think that this is one of the many building blocks that makes A$AP Rocky's run and career so far so great and so highly regarded. And I think that this is also definitely something, if there was ever a reason for me to personally get excited for a rollout for an album, I am now on the A$AP Rocky train. I am now very excited for what he's going to bring with this new project. So yeah, with that, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 50 subscribers by the end of 2023. So yeah, make sure to subscribe.